It is very clear to many of us that he wants to reestablish the USSR. And this is why supporting Ukraine right now is supporting America First agenda. America First is Ukraine.
Now, with the end of the year fast approaching, the fate of Ukraine and Europe more broadly hangs in the air as we approach the 4-year anniversary of the Russian invasion. President Trump came into office, of course, on the promise that he would sort out the war in 24 hours. So far, that hasn't come to fruition. What is going on now? Pastor Mark Burns was spiritual advisor to President Trump when he came to office and a strong supporter of Ukraine. He's on the line now. Good afternoon, Pastor.
Well, good afternoon. And just so you know, I'm still the spiritual advisor to the president. That was.
Oh, well, I'm very glad to hear that. Apologies for that error. Well, let's talk about the Ukraine war, which, you've been very supportive of Ukraine. You've said that Russia must answer for the evil it has unleashed on innocent men, women and children, a statement you put out on social media. Are you frustrated that hasn't happened?
Well, it's very frustrating that any time innocent lives are being wasted due to politics and policies. For me, this is not about Democrat policy or Republican policy, liberal policy or conservative policy, American policy or Europe policy. This is about innocent lives. And from that point of view, it's very frustrating that we have not been able to come to a conclusion. And it's simply because of Vladimir Putin's desire and thirst for totalitarian control. It is very clear to many of us that he wants to reestablish the USSR. And this is why supporting Ukraine right now is supporting America First agenda. America First is Ukraine. Ukraine is America First.
But have you had a word with Donald Trump about that, though? Because his language on all of this is very much closer to Putin. What do you say to Donald Trump to just clarify his mind on this point?
Well, people don't understand how close we are to World War III. I don't agree with everything that the president does, but I can simply say in my conversation with the president that he is doing everything within his power as the United States president, not the president of the world. Even though I know people want to make him the king of the world, he is the president of the United States of America. He's doing everything in his power to prevent that. But we got to be clear what the president has done. President Trump armed Ukraine. He pressured NATO to do their part, which empowered Kyiv even greater. You got to remember, Russia has not taken any new significant territory since President Trump has been in office. President Trump sanctioned Russia.
But they're winning now, aren't they? And you mentioned sanctions just then. Trump could impose much more stringent sanctions, which would bring the war to an end. He can't seem to bring himself to do that. And he's now pulling back from supplying that weaponry that you spoke of. Does all of that worry you?
Well, I mean, I don't believe that the president is going to pull back from Russia. The president is not a friend of Russia. Russia, Vladimir Putin particularly, threatened the United States of America recently, and President Trump parked a nuclear-class submarine in the backyard of Russia to let them know and to remind them that the United States of America is not to be threatened. The fact that the President Trump stopped Nord 2, this is the energy that Europe was buying to fund the Russian war. The president put a stop to that. And so, again, it is frustrating to me that there's much more I believe we can do, hence why I'm still fighting here in America and in Kyiv.
Right.
And making sure that the Democrats and the Republicans understand this is not about partisan policy. This is about human lives, and we got to stand up for what is right and not what is popular.
Well, you do a lot of work with senators trying to push through a sanctions bill on Russia. President Trump keeps blocking that. What do you say to him to persuade him to up those sanctions?
Well, I mean, again, my message to the president is very clear, just like it is to any Republican that's not supporting, which is, again, we're seeing the support growing. Again, President Trump is very sympathetic to the loss of life. He's very sympathetic. He understands Putin attacked Russia. Putin attacked Ukraine. Ukraine did not attack Russia.
And
the
yet
president's trying to do.
He took Russia's talking points in the peace plan that he put forward, didn't he?
Well, No, I think Steve Witkoff took Russia's talking points, and I know that Steve Witkoff is a representative for the White House and for the president. But the president himself, whom I've spoken to directly, is extremely sympathetic to the loss of lives. This is a very complicated situation. In the end, we need to make sure that Ukraine has all of the weapons. I'm pushing for the Patriot missiles to be sent to Ukraine. I'm pushing for the MQ-9s that are sitting right now, 100 MQ-9 Predator drones that are sitting there not being used, and even the company that made them, General Electric, is willing to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to equip them, re-equip them, and send them to Ukraine for free. It doesn't cost the taxpayers any dollars. So it is frustrating to know that we have some of the tools right now that brings an end to this evil war started by Vladimir Putin. And we got to remember the focus is on Putin and not the freedom of the Ukrainian people, because he's the one that caused this.
And when you say you're pushing for those weapons to be released, what answer do you get from Trump when you raise this directly with the president?
Well, I can tell you that my focus has primarily been in Congress and in the Senate. A lot of these guys didn't know that this was even on the table. Again, the president is extremely concerned about the loss of lives. And to be honest with you, on both sides, because it's a senseless war. Remember, Russia attacked Ukraine. And Ukraine did not attack Russia. And it is clear Ukraine has accepted so many different peace deals, and yet Russia keeps refusing them. So I believe it's going, in my belief, and God knows people who talk to me, they say, oh, you're a warmonger. You're trying to keep a war going on, and that's not the case at all. I'm no neocon, like some are calling me. I want war to stop.
Right.
I am like President Trump. It's got to stop by any means necessary. And if Vladimir Putin, who is the aggressor, who is attacking the little children, 9 children killed, 20,000 children missing, 700 plus churches are bombed specifically at the hands of Russia, women being raped at the hands of the Russian soldiers, combatants who have surrendered to the Russian army are still being shot in the back of the head. That is not war. These are war crimes, and we need to keep that focused. And that's my message to the president. That was my message when I was in Kyiv to the president, and that's my message even right now. We got to keep the main thing the main thing. But I know President Trump desires for American boys to not enter the war. But the reality of it is this: if we don't stop Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, then we're going to see Vladimir Putin take Moldova. We're going to see him take Georgia. We're going to see him take the Baltic states. And that's going to enact Article 5 of NATO. And we, America, will be committing more than just weaponry or talking points. We're going to be committing American troops on the ground. And that's what we're trying to prevent, which is what I mean by when I say supporting Ukraine is America first.
Right. Well, you've made that very clear. I just wondered, as a Christian yourself, what do you make of the spectacle, really, of the kind of commercial deals that some of the president's family members and associates seem to be after as part of this peace process? Contracts for reconstruction. They want access to the Russian assets in Belgium, even, that Europe wants to give to Ukraine. What's your message to them about trying to use a peace process to enrich themselves?
The message is simple. You gotta remember that these are human beings on the other end of these maps that we see on CNN or MSNBC. Ukraine is bigger than a yellow and blue graphic that you see on Fox News. These are real breathing people. These are grandmothers who are getting decapitated by bombs that are happening. These are little children who are getting killed and blown to pieces. Arms are being blown off when they're walking to church to worship Jesus on Easter and just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, the reality of it is President Trump is doing everything in his power other than just doing all-out onslaught war against Russia. He's doing everything he can diplomatically. But these people who are trying to gain in the midst of this war, they need to realize these are human beings. These are regular children, little boys, the 20,000 plus kidnapped kids at the hands of the Russians who parents are missing their children, the husbands who are being blown to bits, the women who are on the front lines of Ukraine, women right now who are medics, and they have weapons in their hands, and they are getting blown to bits right now at the hands of an aggressor. That's what we got to keep focused. That's why we got to make the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
War is evil, and it is caused by Vladimir Putin.
You make a very passionate message. You put that together very articulately. Are you clear in your mind that if Donald Trump doesn't fix this war, as he promised he would, he can kiss goodbye to that Nobel Peace Prize next year?
Well, again, I think that's not the focus. The focus of President Trump is the ending of the lives. It's not about a prize. It's about, and I'm telling you that because I know him personally, I've spoken to him personally. It's not about some prize. It's about ending the evil that is caused by Vladimir Putin and bringing a peace, a sustainable peace, not just a prolonged war, but a sustainable peace for the people of Ukraine. And the president has done way more than the Biden administration. He's done way more than what the previous administration. He's the one that armed the Ukrainians with javelins that has stopped Russian armor. So tanks are not doing what they did before because we, the United States of America, under the direction of President Trump, armed the Ukrainians with javelin missiles. So this is the talk of President Trump. The fact is, Ukraine would have been easily destroyed by now if it wasn't for the support of President Donald Trump. But it's not about some peace medal. It's about the lives of the innocent people of Ukraine that are being killed and the innocent people in Russia. They've been brainwashed too. Do you think the mothers and the wives of the Russian soldiers who are being killed at high rate want their sons and their husbands and even their daughters going to the front lines of Ukraine for something that they didn't do or will not gain from? Yeah. Absolutely not. And so you have to look at it from that perspective, and that's President Trump's focus.
Right. One final question I wanted to ask you about Donald Trump's new national security strategy, which has caused some concern over here in Europe. Is it the talk of civilizational erasure? Is there an implication there that migration from Asia, from Africa, is somehow diluting the white Christian identities of European civilization? And is it therefore of a piece with Donald Trump's assessment of Somali migrants to the US as garbage? Does all of that trouble you, that language?
Well, I think it's important to understand what exactly he's talking about. Now, I don't think, well, let me just say this. Some people are bad. Let's just be clear. The Hitlers of the world are garbage, regardless of them being white or whatever their race is. Some people who are killing innocent people, like in the Gaza. I don't care what your faith is. Innocent people are dying in the Gaza. Some people are just not good people. Some people take advantage of people who cannot defend themselves.
Yeah, but that doesn't apply to all Somali immigrants.
And exactly, and that's the point that I'm raising. But the reality of it is not all people are that way. And some people are garbage because of their behavior. There are some Somalians that do some evil things they're hiding behind the innocent people that are trying to have a better life. Those people are garbage. Those people do need to be called out. Those people do need to be monitored and blocked from entering the United States of America. I know some people try to wrap all Somalians in together. But the reality of it is there are some very bad people that hide behind innocent people, and those people need to be blocked. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't know the difference. We've seen the attacks that happened with 9/11 because people came in with innocent people. They entered our country along with other innocent people, but yet they hijacked three planes, and they killed a lot of people. So it is important that we don't wrap everybody in. Not all Somalians are garbage, but there are some people who operate and they take advantage of the innocent in their own country, in Somalia, and they do some very bad things to women and children. So these are true facts.
And civilizational erasure in Europe, I mean, is that something you see happening? Because a lot of people here were rather alarmed by that language.
Well, again, at the end of the day, I don't speak for Donald Trump and I don't speak for the United States government, but I do know this, that until we stop looking at color and stop looking at race as any deciding factor, stop looking at anything to decide based off of the color of our skin, we'll never be the nation that I believe God intended us to be, the world that God intended us to be, the God intended us to be. That is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all people, and it has nothing to do with the color of our skin.
Pastor Mark Burns, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Many blessings to you.
Thank you. Spiritual advisor to President Trump there.